This is the Side Hustle Show number 67, The Hustler's Path from Freelance to Service Business to Product Business.
Welcome to the Side Hustle Show, where aspiring part-time entrepreneurs learn how to turn their side hustle dreams into reality. Because your 9 to 5 may make you a living, but your 5 to 9 makes you alive. And now, your host, Nick Loper.
Hey everybody, Nick Loper here. Welcome to the Side Hustle Show. In this episode, we'll hear from Garrett Moon, the founder of CoSchedule. But specifically, you're going to want to listen for the distinct steps along the way in his journey. It's really similar to what Nick Reese talked about a few months ago about using freelancing to find business ideas. But the idea is just start off small as a freelancer is one quick way to do it. You can start part-time, very little risk. Then as your client base grows, you can bring on partners or assistants and have yourself a little agency. Then as you learn more and more about the market that you serve, you can build out a product to help them even more. So I put together a detailed PDF file that you can download for free with all the notes and resources mentioned at sidehustlenation.com/episode 67 or just /67 if you want to do that. News and updates. Had an awesome time in Dallas last weekend for the first ever podcast movement. Thank you to Jared and Dan and the entire crew for putting on such a great event. It was awesome to hang out with some of the Side Hustle Nation members and listeners and just friends and colleagues from around the industry and really feel the connection, the power that the podcast can create. So really cool stuff. But back to the grind this week, and thankful that you're joining me. Let's get Garrett on the line and go for a walk down the hustler's path. Hey, Garrett, welcome to the Side Hustle Show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Now, Garrett is the founder of Today Made, a marketing development firm, and he's the founder of CoSchedule, a popular WordPress integrated editorial calendar and social sharing system. And the fun part, both of these businesses started as side hustles. He's a side hustle pro. So, Garrett, let's start off with the consulting business. So take me back. You're working full time. Where does the idea for this business come from?
Well, it like many businesses, it kind of comes from doing it wrong the first time. So me and my business partner were working at an agency, marketing type agency, kind of an old school, integrated advertising type place. And, we're kind of like shoved off in the corner in the web area where it's dark and dusty. Okay. And, feeling like, we can do this better ourselves. And there's a lot of technology and new things out there that we're not taking advantage of that could be a huge help to customers. So one day we just kind of broke off and started our own thing called Today Made, and kind of went from there. I think we had a long-running Excel spreadsheet that had sort of this list of expenses that we were each kind of paying for individually for a while. We started building some things on the side and doing a few little side projects, mostly just kind of stuff for fun, not always stuff for pay. But I think when we launched the business, we had about $150 in the pot each when we first started Today Made. So it was just kind of your typical two guys with a crazy idea and just kind of went for it.
$150 to get a business off the ground. I like it.
Yeah.
How? Talk to me about getting your first client. So what service are you offering and how are you signing people up for that service?
Sure. So the first thing we did is we ordered a business card, and we spent $10 on a big, huge ream of business cards. And then we put together this list, and this is actually kind of long before we officially broke away from the agency. We put together this list, and I still have it at Google Doc. And we had a code name at that time before we had named our business, but it was just like a prospects list. Like just
what was the code name?
Muwa. My last name is Moon. My business partner's last name is Walsh. So MOWA, Muwa. Okay. It's a dumb name, but we basically just did this brain dump. We wrote down every single person we know, and it's like, here's this person, and then dash. They might know somebody who needs a website. I have no idea. Or this person operates this side business, or this person is connected to this guy who runs this auto parts store or something. Just stuff like that. And just everybody we knew, that it was basically like a to-do list. And the day we started our business, like this was going to be the list of prospects on who we're going to call first, just kind of who we're going to hustle. Okay. And we kind of pitch ourselves as a new marketing company. It's not really exactly what we wanted to be, but it was easy for people to understand very quickly the types of things that we could do. And to be honest, at that stage of your business, you're just not that picky. We just needed work to kind of get this thing off the ground. So we did some AdWords stuff early on. We did, a lot of website designs and, content management systems, revamps, changes on people's current site, stuff like that. I mean, we weren't too exclusive to any one area. We tried as hard as we could to always kind of keep ourselves very focused on the web, though. We didn't want to go outside of that type of work.
You didn't want to be running direct mail campaigns or, radio spots for these companies.
We did one radio spot, and in our lifetime as today made, and that was the first and very last. So.
Okay. Okay, so this list of prospects this is just personal network plus who those people might know. So it's kind of LinkedIn plus, 2 to 3 degrees of separation.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, sometimes it was asking for a referral or, hey, can you help us get a meeting with this person, or introduction. We always try to, if we don't know, if we have a lead that we want to, get to, but we don't have a good, we don't know them personally or have a personal relationship, we try to get some sort of an introduction to that. So, I mean, it was very basic in primarily first degree contacts, but yeah, there was some of those others in there as well.
Okay. And did the first degree people be like, dude, quit spamming me, or were they like happy to help you out?
No, because we didn't spam them. We just called them. We called them up. Everything was by phone to start with, and we said, hey, here's what I'm doing. If it's anything that you'd be interested in, or maybe, or just want to visit about it. Sometimes it would just be, asking people out to coffee and just say, hey, here's what I'm up to now. You know me, I know you. Let's talk about it. And
okay.
Most people really were. I mean, there was a couple people that said, nah, I'm not interested, and that's it. But they were warm enough relationships, at least, to where they gave us the time of day.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that is where, our first site, the first full website that we sold came right out of that list. And it was just probably within 2 weeks of us making those first calls. And that was our first payday. It wasn't much, but it was the first, paycheck that we were able to take home as a company or as founders.
Definitely. The next question is kind of regards to pricing. Did you kind of price abnormally low in order to build up a portfolio of work, of clients, or anything like that? Or did you go kind of full bore right out of the gate?
Fairly full bore. I mean, I think we definitely scaled our pricing based on the sense that we were getting from that particular client. And so our pricing varied a fair amount early on, but that didn't last very long. One of the few early sites that we sold that we discounted, that was probably the only site. It's really the only site we've ever actually discounted, and it's been kind of a pain in our side ever since. So we really don't do that. And I don't usually recommend to most entrepreneurs that price is the place to discount early on, just to like the idea of just building a portfolio. I know it's really common, but I'm not a big fan of it just because I feel like it kind of gets you started off on the wrong foot, which it's very easy in this type of business to undervalue your services. And that can be very dangerous to a business in the long term because you end up with a lot of clients that aren't paying you very much money, but are taking up a lot of time. And that will prevent you from building your business, and it will prevent you from ever turning it into a company versus, a freelance side project.
Right. Did you get any pushback from people saying, well, I'd love to work with you, show me some of your past work? Or are you able to display some of your work from the agency to kind of ease those fears?
Well, technically, we could even use agency work in our portfolio. I mean, they didn't like us to, and they got mad if we tried. But we both had enough freelance side projects. We'd actually technically had started working together about a year before we started our business, and we each had a side project that we were working on. And what we did is we just exchanged services. I was a designer, he was a developer. So I did his design and he did my development, and we just kind of traded that way. So we had these 2 projects that we built together already. So we kind of knew we had some pieces to go to. And then I had 2 or 3 projects that I had done on the side that showed good design, and we used those primarily on our website. But then when we meet with clients, sometimes some of those agency pieces would come out, but not much of it. I think me and my partner had been doing work as professional web designers, developers for 5 or 6 years before we started. So we had a body of work to point to.
Definitely. Well, yeah, body of work and a body of skill sets. It's not like, hey, just hanging your shingle and saying, hey, I'm a web developer now.
Yeah. And, we had and you get contacts that way too. Just being involved in the industry and being involved in these, working at an ad agency, you meet all kinds of marketing directors and those types of people, and they move around and, they moved to this company, so let's contact them and see what they're doing there, stuff like that.
Do you recommend for somebody starting out that they try and find a partner to to go into business with, or should they set out on their own?
I do. I started on my own as freelance early, very right out of college, and I had sort of business aspirations, but they were kind of muted by my design education. So I wasn't very, smart with how I did things and how I approached work, and didn't really enjoy it very much on my own. So then that's when I took a full-time job in an agency, and then just kind of always said, I want to do it again. My goal and my plan is to run my own business, but I want to wait until I have somebody with some more business savvy just to bounce ideas off of, or I don't know, that helped me think more like a business rather than just a designer on his kind of out there on his own. I think it's difficult. I think as an entrepreneur, you really it's very overwhelming because there's literally an unlimited number of options before you at all times, right?
Definitely.
I mean, you could, we were talking about right before the show about, Today Made had a podcast and we kind of shut it down and did this and took this direction, and, you're getting good traction with your podcast. So, so everybody's a little different, and that's usually based on how you steered the ship early on and how you approached, your podcast or how you approach what you're doing. And, just the overwhelming number of ways that you can take a company at any time, or even just an idea, is very difficult to vet when you're the only one vetting them. It's really hard to test that. That's a theme that I will probably strike on even more, because even just more than a business partner, there's really good ways to vet and test your ideas. But having somebody to analyze that with and talk it through with is really important, I think.
Yeah, I'll joke that the best part about being self-employed is being your own boss, and the worst part about being self-employed is there's no boss to tell you what to do next.
Right. And
I'll give the example of my wife and her business partner, or her side hustle partner. They started this photography thing last year, and where as individuals they might not have had the confidence to put their services out there for sale and charge the prices that they did. But combining forces, it ended up working out really well for him. So pros and cons to partnerships, but starting out, it can definitely be a little bit of a safety net, and like you said, a little bit of a combination of skills if that's the case as well. So
me and my business partner have a very, very good relationship. We've been doing business together now for about 4 or 5 years, and it's it's kind of like a marriage, we always joke, but and I know that that's not always easy to come by, and so we got lucky in that way. But it is a very good thing if you can find it, particularly in our case, designer developer. It's a pretty obvious match.
Yeah. So let's talk about the kind of the pivot as you've been going along growing this business. How did CoSchedule come about, and what is, I guess, explain what it does and why people are interested in it?
Well, before we started Today Made, I kind of alluded to this a little bit. We started building side projects and building some things together. And, what we were building wasn't always the type of thing that we were selling as Today Made. It was actually web applications. So pretty early on, even before we started Today Made, we had aspirations to be a company that builds or sells a web application. And so when we launched Today Made, our goal was to spend, a year or so kind of hustling this agency side, building up a client base so that we had some funding to basically do what we really wanted to do, which was build software. And that's, what we did. We started building and launched kind of our first software product shortly after starting Today Made, and began building that out slowly over the next couple of years, and then built our CMS, which is a standalone product as well. We've never opened that up, but it was kind of designed with that in mind at first. But so we started building software right away, and our goal as a company was to have this time where we pivoted from a service-based company into a product-based company, and that was in our business model from the beginning. That's a 37 Signals model. We talked about them a lot, and I'm sure your listeners are familiar with them. So what that pivot was like 4 years of 4 hard years, really. Agency side kept growing and did well. By the time we finally pivoted, we were up to about five full-time. There was 3 full-time employees and a part-time. So there was 5 full-time 5 of us working full time in the office.
Okay.
So a team of 5 people. So, the agency side had grown, but there's always this very dramatic and very complicated tug and pull between billable work and then working on the app, and working on what we really want to be doing or really want to be building during that time. So that was a pretty tough transition. There's a lot of stuff that happened in there, but the long and short of it is that we actually built a couple pieces of software, shut one down, started CoSchedule, and did that one totally differently than we did the first one, and ended up launching it, getting traction early on, and then pivoting out into actually 2 separate companies.
So where did the idea for it come from? Was this something that your customers were asking for, or were you just like, hey, I think this would be cool, let's build it and see what happens?
Yeah, it was definitely something that we had customers, we wanted to give customers, I would say it like that. We were doing some consulting, in content marketing and social media marketing. Our first piece of software was a social media dashboard tool, very similar to a Hootsuite or a Sprout Social or something, where we're doing monitoring and stuff. So that tool was built because we felt like it served 2 areas. We could sell it to our current clients as part of our CMS, and then we could also, wrap it up and sell it as an individual product. That was kind of the original idea. Faulty reasoning in it for many ways, but that was kind of the first thing that we put out there. So that kind of gave us this early leap into social media, which kind of led us into this consulting thing. And then we had clients that we were kind of teaching how to do blogging, teaching them how to use social media, teaching doing podcasting, helping with video podcasts, all kinds of stuff like that. And we kept feeling like there was never a good tool that we could give them to make it easy. It's interesting. We were working with a company of a handful of people that are going to be involved in the blogging, and they would have total buy-in on the content. They'd have total buy-in. They're willing to write the stuff. They're willing to do what it takes to make it happen. And they believe in the power of what content marketing, online marketing can do for them. But executing it was a whole different thing.
Right.
And there was obvious pain points. One, there was no one place where we could put everybody for them to communicate. We tried things like Basecamp and stuff, and they worked to a certain degree, but they weren't really made to do what we were wanting them to do. And they were always another tool on top of several other tools that they needed. In order to blog, you have to have, we'd always have a WordPress site. So they'd have to have that, and they'd have to have email so they could do their basic communication. They'd have to have some sort of a calendar to plan out their content, usually Google Calendar or Outlook or something like that. And then you had a Basecamp maybe if you wanted to try and do some collaboration, or we tried that unified calendar, but then they still have to go into WordPress, or they still have to go into social media, or they still have to open up Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, you name it. So it was never easy. And what happens when that happens is they just don't do it. They publish a post, they shoot it out onto Facebook, and that's done. And it kind of dies from there. So, you're getting all this, you're making all this headway with these companies, and they're kind of falling flat. And that was frustrating. And then for our own selves, using content as a way to grow our own business and our own email lists, we thought, this is frustratingly hard to have 2 or 3 people in our office writing blog posts, and how hard it is to coordinate all that. And we used every plugin there was. So we ended up having the idea for CoSchedule was actually 2 separate ideas in the beginning. We actually thought about building 2 separate plugins, one that does the social media, and then one that was just a calendar. And the calendar was supposed to be based on a much different, little less traditional type of calendar that we had helped kind of invent for our clients to help them plan content. And so very, very niche applications, but we ended up bringing them together slowly and building them into one product. So it's a lot of different directions. It originally, we scratched an itch, but then as we started exploring the ideas for the 2 products, we realized that there was a pretty big opportunity to bring them together and really make a big impact in the market. So. Okay.
So a little bit speculative to kind of, like you said, divest resources from the agency work to build out this app on the, I know there's a need for it, but like, if I build it, will they come, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. What happened next to market it, or how did you kind of get the word out about it?
First thing we did was not build it. We named it, and I did some mock-ups of what I thought it would look like, and they've actually held pretty close to true. And we wrote up like a one paragraph description of what it did. And I kind of had another multi-page document that, we put together that kind of analyzed the market a little bit, listed out competitors. I mean, we did some, pretty deep thinking on it, but we ended up putting together maybe, 10, 15 page slide deck of what we thought it would do. And it just kind of walked them through the process of how they would use it and what problems we were trying to solve, and that sort of thing. And it was very simple. So we had that slide deck, and we launched a one-page website, and the website, had a screenshot and a description and a download now button. And you could click download now, and what download now would do is it actually opened up a little email form that said, hey, we're not launched yet, haha.
We tricked you.
We tricked you, yeah. But we were able to validate would people click download now. Do people actually want to download? I don't care if they want to give me their email address. That's great. But I wanted to see do people want this thing, right? Okay. So once they did that, then they could sign up for their email, and we got picked up by a couple of WordPress blogs, and we're able to get a few hundred people on that list, in the first week or so. And so it was kind of like, okay, well, that's interesting. People.
So how was traffic finding this site? I could put up a one-page site today, and it would just rot on the black hole of the internet.
Well, some of it was through personal connections. We had pretty good relationships with the guys who ran WP Daily back in the day. I don't know if anybody remembers that site. It was run by 8-Bit guys. So we had worked with them on some work. We had used their themes quite a bit and had worked with them on some of that. So we had a relationship with them, and they picked it up first. And then I think from there, another one of the WordPress blogs picked it up. So it came through a personal connection, but I don't think I even emailed him directly or anything. I think I just tweeted it out. Okay. And
it's just based on kind of your one page, your high level document, what the software is, what it does, who it's for, all that stuff. But never mind that it hasn't been built yet.
Never mind, it hasn't been, but we haven't written a line of code yet. Okay. Another thing I should mention is that TodayMade had a very large email list at this time. We'd been writing a blog consistently, at least 3 times a week, up to 5 times a week for several years already at this point. So, we had built up an audience. We also had our Today launch days. We had thousands of users that came through that application. So, we had a list of them as well. So we just, sent it out. So we were able to build up that list fairly easily. And was one of the things that TodayMade never really capitalized on that list until it started coming to CoSchedule, because even as an agency, we were trying to build up just a list of emails that were interested in things like social media, content marketing. We really didn't call it content marketing back then, but it's kind of what we were doing. We were just talking about blogging, really. But we were putting that together early on, and I think that's a pretty vital step. Is you really have to think a step ahead. You can't just think what you need right now. You have to kind of prepare yourself an audience. So when we launched, it was kind of always like, well, let's have an audience. So when we launch something, at least somebody will care. And that was kind of the thing. So we gave away ebooks and all kinds of stuff. Okay. But so emailed that list, had featured in the blog, people signed up. And then what I would do is I would email these people, some of them directly. And usually you could figure out what website they might use it on based on their email address or something. So we found, 10, 15 people that we thought seemed pretty interesting, emailed them, and then they signed up to, we got them to just do a 20-minute phone call with me. And I just shared a join.me page with them, and I took them through that 10-page slideshow that I told you about. And I said, here's what it does. And I recorded the whole thing. And we got 10 people's candid opinions, as candid as it can get in those types of interviews on what they thought of the product and what it would do. And that was our early validation. That was our step 1 to say, is this something that people would want? And based on that feedback, we decided, combining them is the right way to go. Here's the key problems we're probably solving. We were still pretty off base a little bit at that time, but we were much, much closer. And then we actually revamped the homepage with some updated copy and a little clearer description of what it was, and really cleaned up the idea, I would say. I don't know that we didn't solve the major problems that we needed, but we cleaned up the idea so that once we started building it, we were pointed in a better direction.
Okay, cool. And then it was time to build, or was there still more validation that had to happen?
From there, we started building, but we built a very, very simple MVP. So CoSchedule allows users to schedule social media messages while they blog. So right in line with their WordPress blog post, you can schedule your social media for that post. And then it allows you to see all of that content, both blog content and social media content, together on a single drag and drop calendar. So that's kind of the full iteration of what the product ended up being. But the first version was just a very simple plugin that lets you schedule Twitter messages and Facebook pages, which was code left over primarily from the Today launch product we built, which was our social media dashboard. So we already had this code done. So we kind of took that, cleaned it up a little bit, packaged it as this really simple WordPress plugin, and released it as kind of this beta candidate. And it only went out to those couple hundred people, a few hundred people that were on our list. And they were, and a certain number of those people never even installed it. But I don't know, a good number of them did, 80 people or so did, and began using that piece of the software. And I think that's all the very first version did. I mean, you could just schedule a couple Facebook posts and Twitter messages. Very, very simple. And that was partially validation, partially not. We definitely wanted to hear feedback, and we asked for lots of feedback at that point. But one of the things we are also really trying to do is just get good at writing a reliable plugin. Releasing it as a beta early on, giving away for free was a way for us to start testing reliability and make our system as good and as foolproof as possible. Okay. From there, we actually wrote a very little add-on that we released maybe a few weeks later that allowed people to see their blog posts in WordPress on Google Calendar. So it just exported all their blog posts to a little ICS file, a feature that's still part of CoSchedule, and allowed them to see it on the calendar. And that was kind of the full realization of our MVP. You could schedule social messages and you could view it on a calendar. There's the two main components of what we're trying to do. You'd see all of your social messages and all of your blog posts on Google Calendar. That's pretty cool. And at that time, I don't even know if anybody does that now, but right. It was kind of a neat little thing. So that was the initial plugin, and then from there we just kind of kept building it and getting different beta users. We at one point had a group called Co-Pilots. That was a group that we had a Google Hangout with every single week, and the agreement was that once they get early access to the calendar, they were the first ones to actually see our real drag and drop calendar and use it. And they provided feedback every week on Google Hangouts on interface ideas. I would give them a couple wireframes and we'd talk it through. I'd ask them a series of questions on key problems, how, where are the hangups on your team. We did one-on-ones with them sometimes. So we just kind of put together this small test group that helped us go through the entire process and were there, with us when we launched. And then once they launched, we gave them free access, I think even for life on most of them, for the help that they provided during that phase.
Okay, cool. And what's the charge for it today for a paying customer?
Today, CoSchedule is $10 a month per WordPress blog that you add to the system. And that is we don't limit users or social media profiles once they connect.
$10 per month per domain, basically.
Yeah, basically. There are ways, subdomains and stuff that could, people have multi-sites, so per blog.
Okay, cool. So now you've got this the recurring revenue model, the SaaS business that everyone is after, and what happens from there?
Well, we botched pricing to start with, so $10 a month wasn't what we started with. Actually, it worked out really well. We launched a much higher price, and we validated it because we had customers paying it. I mean, they were. But what we realized pretty early on is that the market was different than what we expected. We expected a lot of businesses to use the product, and actually there's a lot of individual solo bloggers, 1 or 2, 3 people maybe, or that work on a blog that actually wanted to use it. Yeah. And our pricing was prohibitive to that. And so pretty early on after launch, maybe a month, I don't know if it was that long, we pivoted and lowered our price and kind of watched what happened. And it was very interesting. Okay, all of a sudden it upticked. So then we pivoted again to the $10 price point and decided that, our app we weren't necessarily B2B like we thought. Although we have quite a number of large companies that use CoSchedule, but that we could actually sell CoSchedule as a kind of more of a consumer-based application. Was there a way to discriminate out and do some price discrimination for like the people who are willing to pay more, or yes,
just have to look across the board?
There still is, and we're not doing that at the moment because what we ended up deciding is that we're interested primarily in growth at that time, and part of the reason for that, when we're still $10 a month, we haven't changed that, and we don't have immediate plans of changing that price point at all. So that's not the goal. That's not what we're shooting for here. But we decided that it was a high growth company, not just a niche app. And so that's so we kind of pivoted to that model, and that's where we've been ever since. And we've been getting very good traction. from there, we raised angel funding for CoSchedule starting this past January, completed that in April, and then that's when we kind of successfully pivoted CoSchedule out of Today Made officially. Now they're two separate companies and two separate teams.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Raising money to go to the next level. So you hear the stats that, WordPress powers, 1 in 5 sites on the planet. So obviously huge market of potential customers to
75 million sites about
to collect the $10 a month from. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what do you, I guess, what are you doing next to kind of, get the word out and grow from here?
We do quite a bit. I mean, we do a lot of content marketing. Our blog is very popular and growing. I mean, that's been a big focus of what we're trying to do, just get that organic traffic up as much as we can.
And practice what you preach, right?
Yep, absolutely. So we do a lot of that. Twitter and stuff does well. We have some paid ads, but really those are not that big of a deal. We have a very good referral program, and we see a lot of referral customers that way. That's been a very good little growth hack for us. And so we try to find that kind of stuff where, our user base is very passionate about CoSchedule. They're willing and happy to share, and they always like to save $1 or $2 on their subscriptions. So, we offer some things where they can share CoSchedule, they can write blog post reviews and that sort of thing, and, shares with their audience, something that many of them would probably be doing anyway, but then we'll just give them some credit in the app and incentivize them to do that a little bit more. So those have been very good traffic. So most of our signups are very organic. Since funding, we've experimented some with paid ads, but honestly, it's no oasis.
Yeah. For example, I've got I'm on Blogging Your Passion with John Milligan here, and he's got the click to tweet link kind of called out in the middle. He says, if you're not passionate about your message, don't start a blog, click to tweet. And then down in the corner, powered by CoSchedule. And so I'm assuming that's a referral link for him. Like if I go and sign up through him, like he'll get a kickback or something on that.
Yeah, and those types of things are major traffic drivers for us, particularly in this stage of the company, because they don't cost us much.
And that's got to be huge for SEO too, man. Putting that link out on thousands of different sites, that's awesome.
It can't be terrible.
No, that's really cool. So I was going to ask, the lifetime value of a customer. Like how long do people end up sticking around, or do you have do you have any data on like the churn rate at this point, or is it kind of too new?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. We have our churn rate's just around 2%, which is nicely below kind of it's right where you want to be.
That's per month or per?
That's our cumulative total every month. It fluctuates a little bit, but it's averaged out about 2%.
God, that's really low.
So far good. I mean, and that's, I don't know, 9 months in, 10 months, I guess we launched in September. So the math there, I guess, I don't know, but yeah. So, I mean, churn, actually I would have, that's always something we pay attention to, but, I think the biggest thing with CoSchedule is that it's a product people really love. I mean, our user base is very passionate about it, and that's what fuels the referral program. Like the referral program in itself isn't necessarily magical, although it's huge for growth. It's been phenomenal, but the fact that people want to share, and now we've just given them a bonus for doing it, is the key. It's not where they're not sharing just because they're sharing because they want to, and they get the bonus.
Right.
So I think the biggest thing, for CoSchedule, I mean, yes, there's we hit the market, I think, at the right time. Content marketing all of a sudden is like a big deal, and if you look at like Google Trends, you compare social media marketing to content marketing was kind of nowhere about a year or two ago. I mean, all of a sudden now everybody's talking about it, and we're hitting it at the right time. So there's always luck involved in that, but validating our idea and making sure we built something that people wanted was a really big deal. I think so much about the product we would have built if we had not been so focused on getting information from users, actual users, and even contacting people that we thought, hey, this is the type of person that I want using CoSchedule. Like, will they just do a call with me for 10 minutes and tell me what they, I explain my idea really quick, give them the elevator pitch, and they tell me yes or no, I would be something I'd be interested in or not. Like, just even simple stuff like that really helps you frame it, because then you can start saying, okay, well, if this blogger that I know, how would he do it? What would he need? And you can really start to validate ideas. I can't stress enough. Our first product, that social media dashboard that I talk about, failed because we never found a way to really give customers something that they wanted. I mean, it was a good piece of software. It worked great. It was well built, but it failed because it didn't serve any needs that weren't served elsewhere. We didn't differentiate ourselves enough. So.
That's a really cool story. I think it goes back to like somebody listening, because it's probably not going to build a home run software product right out of the gate, but it's part of the process, right? So you mentioned, hey, we started freelancing. Hey, we worked 5-6 years at this design agency. Hey, we started our own design agency outside. And then, hey, we validated the shit out of this thing, and then we eventually built it. And awesome kudos on the success for it. Garrett, people can find you at CoSchedule.com. Anywhere else they should go check you out?
Todaymade.com, of course. And then on Twitter, I'm Garrett_Moon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of this stuff. I think really valuable stuff for Side Hustle Nation. We'll wrap it up with your number one tip for the listeners.
The number one tip is absolutely has to do with validating your idea. I don't think you could possibly do it enough. I think it's very scary to get feedback on your idea, so we don't do it. And you have to do it. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache. A lot.
Awesome. So. I agree with you. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
There it is, guys. Pretty fascinating story, but very methodical in a way. Be sure to head over to the show notes at sidehustlenation.com/episode 67 to grab my full PDF summary file. That's a free giveaway for you. You can also get it actually through your podcast player app on your phone. There should be a link in the episode details for that. But a couple of themes I want to touch on before we wrap up. Number one is the hustler's path. So CoSchedule looks like an overnight success right out of the gate, but in many ways it was 5 years in the making. You heard Garrett talk about, hey, we wanted to be a software company from day one, but these are the steps we had to go through to get there, from working a day job to freelancing, then going and working as an agency or developing the agency, and then finally the software product. Theme number two is the idea of selling shovels in a gold rush. In this case, blogging, and specifically WordPress blogging, could be considered the gold rush, and CoSchedule the shovel. It's a pretty smart business, but I want you to think of what other gold rushes are out there that you can support. And that's it for the show, but I do have a special Friday edition of the Side Hustle Show coming out tomorrow for you, and that's walking through how I got my first sale in 6 different businesses. I think you'll like it. Until then, go out there and make something happen, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Side Hustle Show at www.sidehustlenation.com.